We've been at Yoyoman for around 15 years in game. In that time, we've managed to sign some absolutely fantastic players, but obviously we don't see them develop as good as we can. So I thought, what is our best 11 out of all the signings that we have made at our previous clubs? So obviously at the time of recording, we're currently in charge of West Brom. It will include no West Brom players, but this is the formation that the best 11 is taking part in. I was looking through our previous players and I was realising wingers hasn't really been our strong point apart from one, but strikers definitely have. So this will be the sort of formation we're looking at. Let's go see who I think is our best 11 and some backups in each position. But before we get into that, one notable mention who won't be included is Sergei Yemeljanov, the left winger. Obviously, we're not looking at wingers today. And he's probably been the best of the bunch. He's currently at Manchester City in game at 23 years old. A world-class left winger, in my opinion. We signed him for 1.9 million from Batia Borisov. And Nottingham Forest had him for a good few seasons before selling him to Manchester City for 82 million quid. So let's start with the goalkeepers. The backup goalkeeper that we are starting with is Georgi Magyar. Now, if you remember this guy, we signed him from Arsenal on a free transfer from Nottingham Forest, who then consequently sold him to Manchester United for 43.5 million quid. He's our backup. Let's take a look at our starter. So cast your mind back all those years ago when we were in charge of Birmingham City, 2023-2024. We signed a goalkeeper called Jakub Kesoglu for 18.5 million quid. He stayed at Birmingham City for 3 years before joining Juve for 46, where he's been ever since. And this is him today. An absolute world-class goalkeeper. 31 years old, 118 caps for Turkey. And he developed into the best goalkeeper we've ever signed by a country mile. Now, when I was looking to occupy the fullback positions, I think that's another weak area in terms of the signings we've made over the course of this year. So our backup right back will be Federico Piaggio. We signed him for Leeds United for £5.25 million in 2028-2029 season. He then left to join Napoli and then on to Borussia Dortmund. An Argentinian right back who is solid. He's not world class. He is elite. I do agree with that, but he's not world class. But he's pretty good. Which takes us on to a more recent signing. Our starting right back will be Marvin Munganga. We signed him from Bayern Munich for 13.75 million quid for Crystal Palace. And I think he's the best right back we ever signed. Obviously, he can play central midfield, which is something I'm imagining Crystal Palace are actually doing with him. But in terms of a right back, I mean, look at the state of that. He is a world-class right back. And I wish I still had him in my side. Now, we have had a lot of good centre-backs in our time in Yoyoman, but we'll start with the two backups first. Ales Dvorak from Huddersfield was signed in for 14 million quid from Slavia Prague 2026-2027 season, and he's developed into a very, very well-rounded centre-back. He's been at Huddersfield ever since, never left, so clearly a loyal lad, 82 caps for Czech Republic, and just a fantastic centre-half. The second of our backups is Gilson, who we signed for Leeds United for 15.5 million quid from Santos in Brazil. He is now at Manchester United, having spells at Leicester, Napoli, Dortmund, and now Man United. Clearly been around the block. And he, again, similar to Ales Dvorak, but different in a lot of ways. Mentally, he's much better, but physically, he's a little bit weaker. Technically, he's decent as well. Let's have a look at our first choices. Jorge Flores is our first one. We signed him for Leeds United for 2 million quid. I believe it was in the January transfer window of our Premier League season, so we didn't really see that much of him, but he has developed quite nicely, having a spell at Barnsley and then Valencia, and now look at this man. He is absolutely superb. Still only 26 years old now at Valencia, 130k per week, 38 caps for the Colombian national side, and he's just an absolute dreamboat. And I wasn't expecting it when I was looking at our former players. I couldn't even remember this lad, to be quite frank with you, but he is something special. But probably not quite as special as this guy, our very, very first choice centre-back, was a signing for Birmingham City, 17.5 million quid from FC Basel. He then went to join Atletico Madrid for 43.5 million pounds, where he's been ever since. Andrin Maeda, I mean, he is a legendary centre-back. Swiss national, 112 caps, 11 goals from centre-backs, pretty impressive. And yeah, imagine if we still had this boy. Absolutely unbelievable. One of the best players in this first 11. Now, I'm cheating a little bit with the left backs. We haven't had very many good left-back signing. So Luke Daly is going to be our backup. Of course, we didn't sign Luke Daly. He was already at Huddersfield when we took over. Has since moved to Birmingham City for 33 million. Now at the back end of his career is joining Millwall for 800k. And whilst his attributes don't look that impressive these days, as he has declined a little bit as a footballer, I still think he's one of the best left-backs we have ever managed. In terms of our first choice left-back, this will be Fabio Andre, who we signed at Crystal Palace for 13.5 million quid about 5 seasons ago. He has now joined FC Bayern for 43.5 million quid, and he's developed quite nicely. A really, really well-rounded, not quite on the same level as Marvin, I would say, but he's not too far off, and obviously at a top club now. Not really getting that much game time. I wonder if he'd sign for West Brom. But yeah, out of the limited options we had, he was the best one. Now, boy, do I have some treats to show you in defensive midfield. Caro will be our backup player. We signed him for Huddersfield 2025-2026 season for 17 million quid. And he's been at Huddersfield ever since and been a reliable servant, that deep lying playmaker, which we love in the defensive midfield role. Just stupidly well-rounded, perfect attributes for that sort of position. And yeah, he's a very capable backup. And the reason he's backup is because of this boy. Do you remember him? Cedric. We signed him for 25 million quid from Bayern Munich as a 17-year-old or an 18-year-old. I think it was the January transfer window of that season. Played very, very well for us. I thought Leeds were going to ruin him. They loaned him out the season after and he didn't get much game time. But then he went back to Leeds when they were in the Championship. Then he secured a £57 million move to Chelsea. And now just wait. Just that's him. That is him. I mean, he's 24. He's not even... This isn't even his final form. He is unbelievable. Unbelievable. Him and Andrin Maida are probably two of the best players. There's still some more to come, but I wish I was managing this lad. Now we move on to the central midfielders. We'll start with the two backups. Andres Pritra will be the first one. We signed him from Atlanta United for Huddersfield for £7 million in the 2025-2026 season. And he's just a very, very well-rounded central midfielder. Pretty good box-to-box or a ball winner. He's just stupidly well-rounded and I very much enjoyed managing him. Unfortunately, the other backup is no longer a player, so I can't actually show you him. It was Nicolas Capaldo. We signed him for Barnsley in the very first Premier League season for 4.4 million quid, and he was fantastic in that season for me. And he had a very, very good career beyond that as well, but he's no longer a player, so I can't show you his attributes. But that takes us to the two starting central midfielders, the first of which is Mauricio Chan, who we signed for Birmingham City for £10 million from Chavez 11 years ago in game. He went on to Napoli for 49, then Manchester United for 58, and now he's at Arsenal for 45. He's obviously getting on a bit now, but he's still a world-class midfielder. It was a bit of a toss-up between him and Andres Pitra, who got in the first 11, but I think, obviously, take Mauricio Chan from 4 years ago, he definitely would have been in it. He's still a fantastic player and a very worthy of our best 11. But he is no match for this man. Kotaro Nakamoto is an absolute legend. He signed for Nottingham Forest for 25 million quid, had a fantastic season from central midfield, getting 12 goals and 11 assists with 6 player of the matches. He played a couple of more seasons for Forest before leaving to join at Barcelona for 74 million quid. And this is him today. I mean, hey. Between him, Cedric and Andrin Maida, I think we've had some truly world-class players in our possession. He's stupidly well-rounded technically. His mentals are fantastic. His physicals are great. 23-year-old German. And yeah, he's just unbelievable. Now we go on to our 3 starting strikers. We'll start though with the 3 backups, and it wouldn't be a list like this without Keiichi Goto now, would it? We signed him for Birmingham City for 5 million quid. He scored 30 goals in 35 Premier League games for us. His career after this didn't really take off. He's been at Slavia Prague now for a number of years, and he's not really the sort of striker you would think of being one of our best ones, but he's got 82 goals and 136 Japanese caps. He's just an absolute legend of the series, and I couldn't not put him in this squad. The next player in our backup spots is Gorka Calvo. Now, it could be argued he could be in our starting 11, but I am placing him in the backups. We signed him for Nottingham Forest for 11.5 million quid. He then moved on to Real Madrid shortly after for 80 million pounds, and these are his attributes today. Very, very well-rounded, and the reason why he's not in the starting 11 is he's just not very specialised. I'm guessing is what I'm saying. He's a stupidly well-rounded player, but not that kind of player that I really like to see with really high attributes in specific places. to be able to make him just a specialist out-and-out striker. One of the best free signings of the series was Damien Maillard, who we signed for Huddersfield in our Premier League season. Got 20 goals in 36 games, which isn't too bad in the Prem. He then moved on to Borussia Dortmund after a number of seasons for 54 million. And these are his attributes today. Pretty good. Obviously, another backup, by the way, not a starter. Physically, he's fantastic. Mentally, he's well-rounded. Technically, he's good in the right areas. And at 28 years old, he was definitely, at least, I think, maybe apart from Hugh Griffiths, definitely one. Oh, Magyar. Free signings. Whatever. He's good. So the first of our first choice strikers is Alberto Salenza, a player we never actually managed. We signed him for Birmingham City on a free transfer. He didn't join the club until we had already left. He spent a number of seasons at Birmingham before joining Bayern Munich for 63 million quid. He is 31 now, so his attributes have actually decreased from this point, but he is just a superb advanced forward. I love looking at this guy. I think he's got the attributes in the right areas, and if we could have it, even at 31 now, I would take him all day. The next one we'll take a look at is Yuri Karaviev, £22 million from CSKA Moscow. He has been at Palace ever since, and he's developed into an absolutely worldie of a striker, at least in my opinion. Physically, he's spot on. Technically, he's brilliant. Mentally, he's perfect. He's just the perfect specimen. An unpredictable striker, as declared by the media. Yeah, he's just great. And the final player to complete our best 11 Yoyoman challenge, whatever you want to call it, is Eddie Le Chavrier. We signed him for Nottingham Forest from Club Brugge for £5.75 million. He now plays for Barcelona, having moved for 72 million quid last season. And this is our best, well, not the best striker, part of our best strikers. Best three strikers, yeah. He's absolutely fantastic. Perfectly. This was the toss-up between him and Gorka Calvo. He is definitely more specialised in the role as the advanced forward, and he has the attributes where it matters. His physicals are perfect. His technicals are really, really good. His mentals are getting there as well. It's only his work rate that lets him down along with his passing. But yeah, just an absolutely phenomenal player. So we have come a long way in our time in charge of various clubs during Yoyoman. Obviously, the next 10 years or so, we'll have another whole host of players that we're able to look back on and say, oh God, we really did sign some world-class players. The bad thing about this sort of save is we don't get to manage them players once they do develop, but it is nice to look back and see how they've actually got on. But anyway, boys, that's going to be enough from me today. If you have enjoyed today's video, please consider leaving a like. And if you are enjoying my content, get yourself subscribed. But until next time, take it easy.